I had my rapist's baby. Woman, 21, raped by a stranger on a night out is forced to have his baby after only finding out she was pregnant at 6 months. Becky Kneisll, 21, was too scared to tell the police what had happened until she was told she would have to give birth to her rapist?s child, which she has since put up for adoption. A young woman was horrified to discover she was carrying her rapist?s baby 6 months after she was attacked on a night out. Becky Kneisll, from Barnsley, was too terrified to tell police about the ordeal, which happened just weeks after she lost her best friend to cancer. But when she collapsed at work and was rushed to hospital, the 21-year-old was stunned to be told she was expecting her attacker?s child and it was too late to have an abortion. Becky gave birth to a little boy which she has since had adopted, and is now bravely sharing her harrowing story to encourage other victims of rape to come forward before it's too late. The call center worker told how she had reluctantly agreed to go out for a few drinks after work to take her mind off her grief. Weeks earlier she had said goodbye to her best friend Amy, who had lost her fight with cancer at just 22 years old. Becky recalled, "2 days after her funeral in April 2015, I was still struggling. It was one of the hardest days of my life. I never thought I would lose someone I regarded as my sister. She was so young, and I found her death incredibly difficult to deal with. I went to work as usual, but my grief must have been obvious as my colleagues begged me to go out with them for a few drinks that night, to try to take my mind off things. After a few drinks I started to unwind a little. We decided to go to a bar in town to carry on the night. During the evening Becky popped to the loo, but when she returned she couldn't find any of her friends. As she searched outside for them, somebody suddenly grabbed her by the wrist and pulled her roughly into a nearby alleyway. She said, "My blood ran cold as I realized what was happening. I couldn't see his face, but I tried my best to fight him off as he turned me round and pushed me hard up against the wall. It was no good, he was far too strong for me. I tried to catch a glimpse of his face, but it was hidden in the shadows and my eyesight was blurry from the alcohol." Becky begged her attacker to stop, but he didn't listen. She recalled, "When he pulled down my tights and knickers, I tried to scream out in shock but no sound came out. As he pushed himself inside me, I froze in horror and willed it to be over as soon as possible. I didn't want to accept I was being raped, I just wanted it all to stop." Tears filled my eyes as he finished and ran away, leaving me alone in the dark alleyway. Trembling, Becky eventually tracked down her colleagues and told them she was leaving. She admitted, "I didn't either tell them what happened, as I had no idea who my attacker was and I was scared of making a scene. For all I knew, it could have even been one of the blokes I worked with. When I woke up the next day, I felt ashamed and angry. My whole body hurt from the attack, but I was too terrified to go to the police. I was afraid they won't believe me, that they would think I was some stupid drunk girl, making up stories. I also worried that if I reported the rape, people at work would find out and I would be gossiped about. I was so consumed by my grief over Amy's death, I wasn't thinking straight. I didn't feel equipped to deal with this on top of everything else." Over the next few weeks, Becky took several pregnancy tests to put her mind at ease, and when they all showed up as negative, she tried to put the horrific ordeal to the back of her mind. But 6 months later, she suddenly felt dizzy and unwell while at work. The next thing she knew, she woke up in an ambulance. At the hospital nurses conducted a series of tests and Becky was sent home and told to visit her GP a few days later. It was there she received the devastating news she was pregnant. Becky explained, "The doctor told me I felt quite bloated, but I explained I often get bloated from time to time. But he said he could feel something inside me and he grabbed what looked like a baby heart rate monitor and slid it over my belly. He told me I was pregnant, and I just stared at him in horror. My mind raced as I realized that although I had been on the pill at the time of the attack, They've been taking antibiotics which must have affected my contraception. I had showed no signs of pregnancy and I hadn't been involved with anyone romantically for 18 months. Without meaning to, I burst into tears and told him I was raped. My doctor looked stunned. He cancelled all his appointments for the rest of the day and called my mum and the police straight away. I knew then I had to tell the police what had happened to me. There was no getting away from it now. I had to tell them everything. As Becky was 6 months pregnant, she was too far gone to be allowed an abortion. She recalled. The awful realization dawned that I was expecting my rapist?S baby and I would have to carry it to full term. I didn't feel ready to become a mother, especially not to a baby who had been fathered by my rapist. I felt completely at a loss over what to do. I gave an emotional statement to police, but officers told me that because I left it so long to come forward, the only evidence we had was the baby growing inside me. Police explained to Becky that the DNA of her baby could hold the key to finding her attacker. But as her belly grew, she told how she often broke down in tears whenever people congratulated her or asked if it was a boy or a girl. She told her colleagues what had happened and they were incredibly supportive. But as the months went on, Becky became increasingly paranoid about every man she knew and every male stranger she passed in the street. She explained, I stopped thinking that my attacker was still out there, but I didn't know what he looked like. My family told me they would support me no matter what my decision was, but I came to the conclusion that there was no way I could even think about raising my rapist?S baby, so I decided to give him up for adoption. I knew there was a family out there who could give him a good home, who could love him like I never could. In December 2015, Becky endured a 4-day labor to bring baby Gavin * into the world. She recalled, as I cradled him in my arms, it felt bittersweet. He was a bouncy baby boy, and very handsome. I could see myself in him, but I also knew that he probably also looked like my attacker. For that reason, I felt no real connection to him. Every time he cried, I winced. I knew he needed his mother, but I just couldn't bring myself to cuddle him. I felt awful. It wasn't his fault. He deserved all the love in the world, but I just couldn't give it to him. 3 hours after his birth, Gavin S DNA was taken so that police could try to find Becky S rapist. Officers swabbed all the men she worked with, but couldn't find a match. Becky spent 2 weeks with Gavin before she handed him over to his adoptive family. She recalled, my mum helped with the night feeds and I could see her bonding with her grandson, but I still struggled to feel like he was mine. I knew that his new family would give him everything I couldn't and that gave me some comfort. I know I made the right decision, and I hope that when he S older, he will understand why I had to give him up. We opted for an open adoption, so that one day, he can find me if he needs to. Now, 4 months after giving birth to her rapist?S baby, Becky is slowly piecing her life back together. So far, the police haven't been able to track down her attacker, but the investigation is still open. Becky said, I am determined to raise awareness of the importance of going to the police immediately after a sexual assault. If I had reported the crime sooner, I would have been given the morning after pill and police might have been able to gather more evidence. Victims need to be encouraged to speak out before it is too late. Gavin is a fake name to protect the baby S identity.